is Tom Keifer, and you are at In the Now magazine. And if you're not in the now, you are in the nothing.
Right, joining me on the phone today, many, many years, for about 30 years, he's been the lead singer, and still is the lead singer of Cinderella, one of the greatest bands of the 80s. And he's got a solo album coming out here in about 2 weeks. And on the phone with me today, Tom Keifer. Tom, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. You know, actually, I don't know how often you've been to Kansas or how much you come through Kansas, but the weather here is kind of schizophrenic today. It was like 60 degrees the other day, and now it's like freezing. So it's going from like, nice, like I can wear, a short sleeve shirt out, maybe some shorts. Now you have to wear a coat. Yeah,
it's been a bit like that here in Tennessee too, up and down, but I think it's starting to settle towards the warmer weather now, which will be nice.
Now, you've got a solo album coming out. April 30th is the release date. How long has this been a project you've been working on?
Well, if you include all the writing, going back really to the mid-'90s was the first time I thought about doing a solo record and started writing for it then. It was when Cinderella had parted ways after the whole music industry and the trends in music had changed in the 90s, and we lost our deal with Polygram, and I started thinking about doing something different and started writing then, but it kept getting put on the back burner, and I eventually came back to it in 2003 and started actually cutting tracks for it then. So all the songs had been written between that period between the mid-'90s and 2003 when I actually started cutting tracks. And from that point on, it was just about the recording and production and mixing and arranging and all, and it was produced independently of a label, so I had all the time in the world to do whatever I wanted, and I took all that time. I didn't think it would be 10 years in the making, but it was, and I guess that's the upside and the downside of not having a deadline or a label, but I do feel that I was able to leave no stone unturned, and put as much into this record as I possibly could have. So I'm proud of it and excited that it's coming out.
You mentioned you're in Nashville.
Yeah.
Do you live in Nashville, or are you just passing through Nashville?
Live here. And
writing the tracks for the solo disc, was there any kind of outside songwriters coming in the Nashville community, or was it just you and a guitar in a room writing the tracks?
The solo record is the first time I really wrote with a lot of different people, and there's a lot of really great writers that I worked with on this record. My wife, Savannah, being one of them. She's been in Nashville for years and is a very talented singer and artist herself, and worked on Music Row as a staff writer and producer for a publishing company there. So we wrote a lot of stuff together, and a few other local writers that I worked with here. Was a nice, like a breath of fresh air to come down here, and like I said, it started in the mid-'90s when I did, and I was working with really great writers, and it inspired me to become a better writer and lyricist, and I really enjoyed that aspect of the writing process that went into this record.
With recording it in Nashville, there's a lot of recording studios around Nashville, but there's a lot of people in Nashville that also have home studios. Did you take the home studio route, or did you actually go into one of the big Nashville studios to cut the record?
Both. We cut drum tracks, and actually a lot of the keyboards were done in Nashville studios here, and actually the mixing too was done in. So we worked in a number of studios here. We have a studio here at the home that we used for the overdubs and a lot of the editing and Pro Tools work that we did here. So it was a mixture of both.
It's one of those things, Nashville is one of those things where people, they correlate it more so with country music because it's country legacy. But really, if you look at it, there are so many records that are made in Nashville. Does it feel, being there as a rock artist, do you feel at home in Nashville?
Absolutely. All the musicians and writers here that I've worked with, and I think is probably as true across the board, even people I haven't worked with, the ones that I've worked with are they all came up on the same music that I did, which was like the rock music of the 60s and the 70s. And, you know, that's, you know, they're capable of playing and writing anything. You know, we've had really great musicians on this record, and like I said, some really amazing writers to work with. So, and it's coming from the same place, you know, because, you know, I grew up on that same music, and that music was all steeped in American roots music. You know, I mean, the inspirations for Jimmy Page and the Stones and all the people that I grew up on, you know, was blues and country and R&B and gospel and all that type of music. So that's one of the really great things about the writers and musicians here is they have all of that. You know, not only the rock roots, but obviously they, you know, have tons of, you know, the blues and country element too that I love, that I've always been a part of my music. So it was a pretty natural fit to come here.
And in writing the songs, this is something that's always been a question in my mind with any artist. When you're writing songs, how do you know if it's going to take shape into a Cinderella song or take shape into a Tom Keifer solo track?
I don't know. I did the majority of the writing in Cinderella, and I was the lead singer and did a lot of the guitar work too. So there's a certain vibe or sound that I have that was a big part of Cinderella. So it's more about like a song becomes a certain artist or a band because they're performing it, you know. So certainly I had there was a stamp on Cinderella from my voice and guitar playing and writing style that's carried over into when I do things solo. You know, there's no way to really run from that. You know, I have a particular sound and style. So I don't really think about whether a song is a Cinderella or a solo, you know, song. It's just a song to me, you know, and when I perform it sounds like me. So
there's really no way to define it. You just kind of like, oh, well, this goes here, and it just feels this. It probably doesn't feel the same crossing over.
Well, I certainly write songs. I mean, believe me, I write songs that aren't appropriate for Cinderella or me. You know,
right?
so it's really, you know, there's a huge pile of songs that I selected the material for this record from. You know, and I don't know. To me, it's about like you think about when you're picking songs for a record, you just think about which ones you like, which ones you think are the best songs, and then you get into that thing, you know, well, we got to have a balance here, too. You know, you want to have some really heavy driving stuff, but you want to have some dynamics, right, too, with a ballad or an acoustic song, so the whole record doesn't sound the same. So, I mean, certainly from Cinderella to my solo thing, you know, in both areas, we've walked that line of having a balance, you know, with acoustic stuff and hard rock stuff and ballads and all. Some of Cinderella's biggest songs were ballads and acoustic songs like Heartbreak Station or Coming Home. So, you know, the styles are kind of similar between, you know, if you look at the solo record and in terms of the type of music. So it's not really a decision I think that I ever really have to make. Like I said, it's more, if anything, it'd be like, you know, occasionally there's a song that's not appropriate really for either, you know.
And with those songs, do those kind of go back into the Nashville thing? Does that kind of go into where you kind of pitch those songs to somebody around Nashville, or do you kind of keep those?
Yeah, on occasion. I don't do that a lot. You know, I've been so pretty busy here from the time I moved here between writing for the record and recording the record and touring with Cinderella and trying to keep up with family life. You know, Savannah and I have a 9-year-old son here that keeps us pretty busy. So. Believe me, those three things keep me pretty busy. But, you know, on occasion, you know, someone will say, hey, I'm looking for some tunes, and, you know, I'll throw them a CD of some stuff that I haven't cut or that I don't think I will or wouldn't be appropriate for me or Cinderella. But for the most part, I'm not really in that game so much of trying to get cuts.
The first single is Solid Ground. The album is The Way Life Goes. That comes out on April 30th. It's 2 weeks from when we're recording this right now. As far as the album goes, what kind of music can we expect to hear on that? Is there a lot of bluesy stuff on there? Do you kind of keep it more just straight ahead rock?
It's a lot of really hard driving rock. Some of the tracks are as heavy and driving as anything I've done with Cinderella, maybe more so. There's one in particular I'm thinking of. And then there's, dynamically and kind of the way the record's paced, it's, similar to Long Cold Winter or Heartbreak Station, where it has, ballads and some ballads and acoustic stuff too, and everything in between. So just tried to pick songs that made a well-rounded record where it doesn't all sound the same.
Taking this out on the road, is this your first time going out with the band that's not Cinderella on this solo tour that you just launched earlier this year?
Yeah, it was, and I've been with Cinderella for 20, almost 30 years, I guess, from the inception. So yeah, that was a new experience, a little exciting and nerve-wracking all at the same time. Particularly getting into rehearsals. By the time we were done rehearsals, it just felt like riding a bike. At that point, it's playing music, and we were doing a lot of the Cinderella songs too in the show, and about 50-50 between new and old. So we had a good time out there. We did about 3 weeks, just kind of get the feet wet and become a band, and for me to, get a grasp on playing some of this new stuff live, and also give the fans an opportunity to see a show, way in front of the record release, where they could preview, or hear some of the new material live, as well as some of the old favorites. So,
the tour dates, you had mentioned that you're still working on some for a second leg of the tour, and as they're being confirmed, they're being posted at tomkeifer.com, and I'm looking at the site. You also have a VIP experience. Now, this looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
Looks like you've got a meet and greet, autograph session, photograph, and they also got to come into the pre-show sound check. Now, is this like the real sound check, or is it one of those things like where you do the real sound check and then they kind of come in and watch?
No, it's a real sound check. I think if you're going to experience a sound check, you should experience a sound check.
Yeah.
So, and everyone that's been to it really enjoys that, and we were doing the same thing with Cinderella too, and just the interaction between the band and the crew, and just actually seeing what goes into getting the stage and the sound to sound right, and people find really interesting. A lot of people tell me that's their favorite part of the package. Is that they get to be there through all of that and see the real thing. I know what you're talking about, where bands do the sound check first and get everything perfect, and then they bring in and they do a couple of songs, and it's not like that.
Yeah.
You don't do it that way.
So you guys are actually checking levels and setting the monitors up and everything, so you're kind of cutting off in the middle of the song.
Yeah, busting on each other, and it's funny, and it's, you get to see the real interaction between the band and the guys in the crew, and it's fun.
And sound checks also, they're kind of a time where I know a lot of bands they'll try out new songs before they actually take them to the set list, or they'll try out cover songs or things like that. Do you guys try to do that kind of stuff with the meet and greet sound check package? Or?
Yeah, that can certainly crop up. I mean, my experience with the VIP is more extensive with Cinderella, because we just did it 3 years in a row when we were out touring. I've only done about 14 dates with the solo thing, but it's both are pretty similar. I mean, I conduct my solo one the same way, but yeah, on any given day, you could hear a blues jam or a completely different version of an old song yeah, I mean, it's interesting. You never know what'll happen.
You guys also have a presence on Facebook and Twitter. How often do you actually interact with fans on these sites?
I don't know. I guess whenever, I'm not like, I'm kind of just learning about that. I didn't have a Facebook or a Twitter until I had signed with Meravi, the label that's putting out my record, and it's just something I never even really thought about, really. I'm kind of a private person, and they got my feet wet with that and got me set up with the Facebook and with the Twitter, and I'm still honestly learning about it, and sometimes I post things and I fuck it up, and I go, wow, did that actually post, or did that get posted out in cyberspace somewhere where no one's going to see it? So I'm still kind of, Twitter, there's some buttons on there, I'm still not sure what they do.
Right.
So, but yeah, I'm getting the hang of it, and I tweet and post stuff from time to time, and I read it and see what the fans are thinking, and also, I'm I'm working into it. So
what I like about it, and this is one of the things I really love about interacting with musicians on Twitter, is that it kind of it breaks that barrier down a little bit before. If you haven't seen an artist live, or if you haven't met the artist, it breaks that barrier down a little bit where they become more of a person rather than just something you see on your computer screen or on your TV or just hearing your iPod. They actually become a person that you can become a little bit invested in, a little bit more so that way, instead of just having it be about whatever intangible thing you're seeing on a screen somewhere. And that's what I really like about it, is that it kind of opens up that interaction gate to where
it's cool. It's definitely cool.
And you can really gauge like what the fans are thinking of a certain song or the album in general, really, too. They can kind of tell you, hey.
It's instant feedback, even for shows, you know. It's definitely a cool thing, and it's definitely something that's new to my world here, and I'm getting into it and learning more about it every day.
And how often, when you're building a set list for a show, do you kind of look at Twitter or Facebook and go, oh, well, they're really wanting to hear this track, so we'll put this in the set list? How often does that happen?
Well, considering I never had anyone until, like recently, like the fall. So really the first tour that I've done where I've really been active in this was the 3 weeks that I did in February. And this is such a different kind of tour. We were specifically trying to incorporate the new material for people to get a preview of and kind of check out. And so, but the way I did use the social media is once I put the set together and kind of put the new songs in that I wanted to perform live, we put snippets of them up on the website, so people would be able to hear, a third of, each of the tunes. Now, obviously, because the record's not out yet, so they won't put the whole song up.
Right.
But they could be more familiar with the new material. So, like when the song starts, they go, "Oh yeah, I know this one. I know the title. I know the melody. I'm familiar with this," which is a really cool thing about the social media and that instant access. That once a set list was put together, we put the snippets up of those new songs so fans could live with them and be familiar with them. So when we start playing them in the show, that it's just not like this, brand new thing,
Right.
It's a little, I think that makes it a little more fun for the fans and for us. So that was the way we used it on this tour, which I thought was really a good thing,
Sometimes you can play a brand new song and you just kind of get the people they love the song, but they're paying attention to it because they've never heard it. And so they're kind of, there's not a lot of participation, but you get it where they know the hook at least, and they can at least sing that along to that part. Or at least
with the snippet they got the intro, so they recognize it when you started, and they usually it goes through the verse and pre-chorus and chorus, so they know the melodies and all. They may not know the words coming up in the back half of the song, but they know how the song goes. So, and they're familiar with it, and that's it's cool because we were so far in front of the release of the record. Obviously, nobody knew the thing, but we wanted to go out and play some of the new stuff. So it was helpful, for us, and I think and the fans too, to be able to do that. So that was definitely a great way to use it.
And you released the single "Solid Ground" right around the time that you were heading out on that tour too. Was there a good reaction at the live show when you guys started playing "Solid Ground" live?
Yeah. People like that song. It's doing well at radio right now. We've released that to mainstream and active rock, and it's also getting spun on satellite on Sirius and XM. So you're getting more and more familiar with that one, and it certainly was one that people really liked and responded to during the show. So.
And that's one of those songs when it pops up on my satellite radio or on the FM dial. Makes you want to speed a little bit, honestly. So I drive a little bit faster when it comes on.
Well, yeah, it's got that driving, high-energy rock thing, kind of that old classic picture of the guy sitting in the chair with the speakers with his hair blowing back.
Yeah.
It definitely, when the opening downbeat of that, once the band kicks in, it definitely has that kind of effect. So that's what we were shooting for anyway. So it's nice to hear that don't get a ticket now or have an accident, though.
Well, and if I get a ticket, I promise I won't mail it to you. That's
okay. Yeah, because I won't pay it. So
yeah. And the album, when it comes out on April 30th, will there be a web store available at your .com, your TomKeifer.com website? that they can pick it up
I don't
there,
know.
or is it just better to kind of go to like to Amazon or iTunes?
Well,
or
it's,
some local
the
record
singles
store?
right now are on iTunes. All the digital stores have the 2 singles that are out, and obviously the record will be available on all of those digital outlets as well. I don't know that we'll sell it on the website. I don't know that that's really necessary. I hadn't really thought about it. There's so many places online you can buy it.
That's really changed the way I buy music, because it's kind of like, well, do I want to go? Like, will it even be at the record store? Like some records.
Well,
I go to the
we're
record store,
doing
they're not there,
physical. We're doing
Yeah.
physical CDs, and
Right.
it'll definitely be out in record stores.
Some albums come out, and I'm kind of like, man, where do I find this thing at? Usually I just go on like to iTunes and get it. That's usually the easiest way. But I still like the experience of going to the record store, getting in, opening it up.
It's just such a cool thing, all those great records in one room. There's a feeling about that when you walk in there, It's,
Yeah. And it's just something about opening the packaging up and just pulling the artwork out, reading the liner notes. And I used to do this when I was younger. I used to get it all and be like, oh well, yeah, this guy produced this record, or this guy mixed this record, and with digital copies, sometimes you don't get the information like that, where you can't go in and be like, oh well, this guy.
Yeah, a lot of them don't have credits. I've downloaded a lot of records where off of iTunes, and it's just like there's no credits.
But that was a fun part of just the record buying experience in my younger years. Was just kind of like, wow, I can go in and figure out who these people are, or who wrote the songs. You can figure out whose perspective the song was written from just by reading the liner notes, or if you couldn't figure out a word, like if you're listening, you're like, well, what's that? The guitars are a little bit loud there, so I can't hear that word. And you go in and you figure it out. That's
Well, it's certainly a big part of the experience, and then I'm going back into the, I grew up and got into music in the 70s. It was all albums.
Yeah.
So the artwork and the credits were even bigger and cooler, and it was like this real piece of art that you were buying.
Well, and I read an article where that the surge in vinyl sales is the highest it's been in like 16 years or something.
Yeah, people are getting into that again. It's pretty cool.
And then like record store day is coming up, so there's a lot of people that are going to be like just heading out this weekend to just stock up on stacks of vinyl.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that because I've been such a big music collector. It's hard to feel like you're really collecting when it's just a hard drive,
Right. It doesn't feel like you're really collecting anything.
But I try to buy as much music as possible, because I can never have enough. Sometimes I look at my iPod or I look at my record collection. I'm like, well, I need to buy more stuff. There's nothing here I really feel like listening to right now, so I go buy more stuff. Come up with a big stack. And
well, to me, it doesn't. Like you said, when it's just all on a hard drive, it doesn't really feel like it's yours.
Yeah. Well, and you can play it loudly still, but it's just there's something about pulling the disc out of a CD player, and putting it in the case, or taking the vinyl out of the sleeve and putting it on the turntable, and
well, there's nothing cooler than that.
And there's something about that experience that just you can't replace with pulling it up on your computer. I don't know. That's just me. So
I agree.
And the website TomKeifer.com. The album comes out April 30th. The album is titled "The Way Life Goes." Single now is Solid Ground, and they can find it at iTunes, Amazon, and should be able to find it at their local record store, correct?
Absolutely.
And TomKeifer.com, you can also get the VIP package. You can hook up with you on Facebook and Twitter through that website, and as tour dates are being posted, they'll be posted there on TomKeifer.com.
That is correct. Come on out. Got some dates coming up here starting in May. We'd love to see everybody out there.
Very cool. All right, thanks for joining us on the phone today, Tom.
Yeah, thanks for talking to me, brother. Good talking to you.
All right, no problem. Have a good one.
You too.